You don't believe your eyes. What in the heck is going on? Is that a cop walking across your grass to your porch, tinkering with your security camera, slipping a black rag over the lens? That's today's question. Can a cop legally cover or disconnect your camera sensor? We'll explain whether the police can blind your camera's eyesight, and tell you the best way to handle an officer who refuses to leave your property when they do not have a legal right to be there. Welcome to the Four Eyes of Law. I'm attorney Larry J. Brookins, a California trial attorney with over 25 years of litigation experience in both the state and U.S. federal courts. 10 of those years were spent with two of the largest government agencies in Los Angeles. As a lawyer, we must give our mandatory disclaimer. This video is for informational purposes only. It's not intended to provide specific legal advice about any specific case or person, or to establish an attorney-client relationship. As always, our first line of advice if you're facing a serious legal matter is to consult with an attorney of your choice. See our full disclaimer in the description. That said, let's talk law. Before we bite down, please pay this video forward by hitting the subscribe button and ring the bell. This helps other people who need this information to find this video. So what is the law around your home? First, understand that the law protects not only the inside of your home, but also the immediate outside area that surrounds it. That connecting exterior, commonly called the curtilage. This usually includes your front entry, porch, attached or garages that sit close to your house. The Supreme Court describes the curtilage as the area immediately surrounding and associated with the home. Thus, under the Fourth Amendment, the curtilage receives the same privacy protections as the interior of the home. Generally, cops may not roam or search those areas freely without a warrant or a recognized legal exception. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the police only have a limited license to approach your property to speak to you. This is the so-called knock-and-talk rule, but they are not allowed to move beyond this limited authority or use the knock-and-talk rule to forcibly enter. They cannot ramrod inside or fiddle around with your door locks or security equipment. A person's porch is not a part of the public sidewalk or street. A citizen in such a situation may inform the officer that they have exceeded their authority. As a caution, do so in a respectful manner. Simply say, "Officer, please do not take this personally, but I do not grant permission to search my property unless you have a warrant. Please leave my home and do not touch or remove my property. If you have a warrant, show it through the door or hold it to a window." This helps to avoid escalation. The limited privilege an officer has without a warrant is similar to what's allowed for a mail carrier or an Amazon driver. They are allowed to approach, knock, and ask questions. Cops are prohibited from going beyond this privilege unless they have a warrant or probable cause of criminal activity. In another case, Soldal versus Cook County, the court ruled that a seizure of property happens if there is a meaningful interference with a property owner's possessory interests. So if an officer tears down your porch camera, smashes the lens, or prevent it from recording, they're doing more than just visiting. That type of conduct is a meaningful interference with a person's rights and may constitute an unlawful seizure of property under the Fourth Amendment. It can trigger constitutional protections and may give rise to a lawsuit in civil court. It may even be considered a crime dependent upon the jurisdiction. Conceivably, damaging someone's camera might satisfy the elements of criminal mischief, vandalism, or trespassing. Police officers aren't magically exempt from these laws. If this happens at your door, these are some of the things you should do. Remain inside, with the door closed if possible. Law enforcement doesn't have special privileges when they visit. They are held to the same standard as any other visitor, and that invitation is canceled if you ask the officer to leave, unless they have a warrant or some other exception to the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. If an officer remains on your property after you have clearly told them to go, this may be more than just an unpleasant situation. You might have a valid civil rights claim against the individual officer. A First Circuit Court of Appeals ruling, French versus Merrill, supports the idea that persistent, unwelcome behavior by officers around a person's home can be a constitutional violation. Before we continue, if this video has been helpful, please hit the red subscribe button below and tap the bell so you'll automatically notified when our next video drops. Our next subject is, how do you handle a cop's loud pounding knocks and banging on your door? An aggressive encounter with police is very different from a casual visit, if officers are shouting or banging forcefully at your door. With the door closed, you may ask the officers to please leave, unless they have a warrant, and if they have one, ask them to please show it through the door or a window. Now, if you do open your door in this scenario, be prepared to treat it as a formal police encounter. If you do not wish to speak, simply say, "I am exercising my right to remain silent, and I will not answer any questions without my attorney present." That's it. Do not consent to any searches of your person or home. Some officers may use the tactic of repeatedly returning to your door after you have refused to answer. This repeated, forceful return, especially during late hours, has been addressed by the Supreme Court in the case of French versus Merrill. The court determined that an officer's repeated, insistent visits and attempts to get an occupant's attention crossed the line from a normal, decent approach into unconstitutional behavior. The court ruled that short, aggressive returns can transform a typically legal knock and talk into actionable misconduct. The court ruled that the officer's persistent harassment was unlawful and that a reasonable officer should have known it was such. Final tips. Do not resist or engage in a physical encounter with the officers. Record the interaction if it is safe. Write down and document the facts while they are still fresh in your mind. Preserve any footage your camera may have recorded before being tampered with. If there are witnesses, have them write their statements or use a cell phone to record them. Write down the officer's badge number, vehicle license plates, and identifying information about any other government employees who may have been on the scene. Then, immediately contact an attorney who is familiar with government entity and police litigation for advice before going to the station to file a complaint. If this video has been helpful, hit the subscribe button and tap the bell. Now check out this next video. Thanks for watching.